right, we are in the office again for another episode of the audio project, and I have a very special guest here today, which I'm very excited about. Kat Hsia, you're the Formstack account executive that covers Hawaii and the APAC region, so thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Deena. I'm so excited for this.
Okay, cool. And I'm really excited in part not only because you're based here in Hawaii, but also because we're going to start diving into Formstack as a company at Pacific Point. So, of course, having you here talking about the company, the product, all things Formstack is really what we have on the agenda today.
I love it.
So we'll dive in. If you could please, for our audience, introduce yourself, tell us about your role, and just give us some context.
Yeah. So I am Kat Hsia. I'm an account executive here based locally in Hawaii. And I'm so excited because being at the crossroads of the Pacific, being able to cover Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and Hawaii, it's just, I think, perfect. And especially now as a lot of companies are going into digital transformation and that's top of mind, I'm super excited to be at Formstack and helping kind of spearhead that in this region. So just so people know what Formstack is, it's really about being able to reclaim your workday, doing things inside of Salesforce where it's native inside of Salesforce, things like data collection, document generation, and digital signature. All of those all under one roof, so you're not using tons of different products or softwares, and streamlining your day.
That sounds awesome. Well, that was going to be my first question, is what is Formstack? So thanks for jumping through that.
Sure.
What would you say is your favorite thing about Formstack? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sure you have a list of things, but pick one or two. I don't know.
I think my favorite part of Formstack is that it's easy to use. So from someone like me that has not a ton of technical background, I can get things up and running in 15, 20 minutes. And we did like a whole certification process when I came on board, and I was kind of playing with how to do things. And that's something that folks really like about it, that I've had the conversations with current clients, even in Australia and Asia Pacific, right? That's something that they love.
Yeah, okay. So people will take Formstack, they'll build their own custom forms to do intake, any kind of data entry intake, or maybe a form that was once maybe paper, God forbid, and now put that on maybe a website, embed it within an existing website, or maybe just create a plain form, and then all that data just gets pushed into Salesforce and whatever objects, is that fair? Whatever objects that are needed.
So that is one way that Formstack works. The other way is that we actually have Formstack for Salesforce Native Cloud, which sits right inside of Salesforce. So the data never actually leaves Salesforce. And that's something that especially our partners in Australia really love because they like everything to stay right within their Salesforce instance.
Yeah, that's a good differentiator. Very good point.
Yeah.
What are some use cases that you can share with us, or what kind of businesses are using Formstack and Salesforce? Actually, I'd like to know which ones are using both. Yeah.
For sure. So the top verticals I would say that we play really well in are healthcare, because we have HIPAA compliant forms, financial services, the NGO space, and even government. So those are some of our top verticals. I think especially because security is super important, being able to keep it right within your Salesforce instance has been one of the top things people look for with us, and also the compliance piece for HIPAA compliant forms, that type of thing.
Okay, cool. So the use case in all those industries could be that it's an internal employee who's filling out a form or completing whatever part of the workflow, or it could be for their customers or patients, or, okay, cool, very cool. Do you have any stories you could share?
Sure.
Okay.
So actually a story that I like sharing is that we use Formstack within Formstack, right? So everything from our HR department to our sales department to operations. I've actually gone and interviewed some of those different parts of the company, and that's what I love about it, is because it takes those data silos and it really helps us to communicate better internally as well. So the customer experience is part one, and then also I think especially now with the great reshuffling, everybody wants to have something that will make employees' lives easier and make them want to stay because they enjoy it. They enjoy coming to work and not having to focus on the things that make their jobs tedious, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, drives efficiency, better collaboration, everything together. I like that. Anything more on it working directly with Salesforce? I know you mentioned it being a big differentiator. I think it's a differentiator, having worked with other Form products, that the data doesn't sit in your own cloud, but it can if clients want, or it can just go only in the Salesforce cloud, which is nice. Anything specific about Salesforce that you want to add as it relates to Formstack and Salesforce together?
Sure. So I think with a lot of Salesforce AEs, they like the fact that it can work really well with the different experience clouds, and being able to build it natively in there. We work with tons of SI partners especially, and when they bring in Formstack, it makes so much sense because now they can take really complicated projects and plug in one very simplified solution to make it all work together.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of demos and I'll see like the Experience Cloud and I'm like, oh, that's so nice with the forms, and it is a really clean experience, and makes it so much easier for the end users to fill out forms and kind of know where they are, be dynamic in how that data is entered so that you collect it the right way. I think it would really drive a lot of data accuracy and cleanliness before it comes in, because that's a big, huge pain point when you go the other direction and you're having people fill things out in a less intuitive way, I'll say.
Yeah. I'll also add something that I learned recently is that Salesforce actually uses Formstack within their ecosystem for themselves. So I think in 150 different locations where Salesforce exists, they're using it in their offices. So
very cool.
Yeah.
That's good. So now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about you and your job, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it's like to work at Formstack and the details of your role, maybe a little bit.
Sure. Thank you for asking that question. I love that question. So I think the reason really that I was attracted to coming to Formstack because it was built as a remote first company. So in today's world where after 2020 and all the craziness, I think that really kick-started this whole, I guess, wave of people wanting to move more remote, right? But because Formstack was already built that way, it just kind of did business as usual. And when they kind of shared that with me and what that story sounded like, I was impressed, because I think especially here in Hawaii and how people are very, very face-to-face in terms of culture, having that kind of more hybrid way of being able to do business, and also because customers' expectations are changing to want a digital first experience, that's kind of given us a little bit more of a foothold and a step ahead, I guess I would say, to be able to bring that to market.
Very cool. Awesome. So your role, Hawaii and the APAC region, sales, so account executive.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about how you think the sales landscape has changed. Now everything's digital. What do you think are some maybe pros and cons, some challenges and solutions in this new world? Any thoughts?
That's definitely something I've been thinking about. When I think about that question, I think it really resonates for Hawaii specifically because of how relationship-based we are. And I think that is very similar in the Asia-Pacific region, right? To be able to meet face-to-face, to develop a relationship with another person, and to build that trust. But I think because we have these great technologies, Zoom, Google Meet, all of those types of things that are coming into play, I get to interface with my team multiple times in a day, even just 20 minutes, hey, let's work together and let's have our camera up and enjoy each other's company. But you don't have to have that kind of, I'm going to have to commute to go someplace, which I think actually saves people time so that they can focus more of their energy and have that focused time to do really good work. So,
yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts on your marketing and how you market being here in the Pacific? How do you market?
Here in the Pacific, I think it's a lot of, we rely definitely very heavily on our marketing teams. We have awesome marketing teams at Formstack, and being able to talk about success stories and client stories, because you want to always be able to identify, hey, these are the key use cases for our clients in these different verticals, and let people self-identify that, that sounds a lot like what I'm experiencing. So I think from a sales and marketing standpoint, I do love that approach, because identifying yourself in a solution is my favorite way to go.
Yeah. For the sales and marketing on our side, I'll say in this in this change that's happened since last year, that people do value face-to-face. I think they still do. And I think last year it was funny because in Australia, people really, there's always this thing about the coffee chats. Let's go have a coffee chat. Let's go meet over coffee. And now that kind of went away, and people were saying in 2020, a lot of our clients and prospects in Australia were saying like, oh, I'm saving so much more time, and I don't think we're going to be doing that as much, going forward with all the commute time to get to the coffee shop to, have this conversation and then kind of walk away and then have all the stuff to do afterwards. But it's funny because now that they've been in lockdown for so long, now I'm seeing a lot of people saying, I can't wait to have coffee chats with every person I know. So it'll be interesting to see how it all goes, because I think at the end of the day, we're human and we still value the human relationships. And so it's going to be an interesting blend of how those things balance in both marketing and sales, because the other thing is just like the lack of networking, and people are hungry for it, but yet they're still like trying to find the right balance of like in person and not and all that stuff. So we even got to the point where we saw that there were less marketing events and started creating our own, just to have opportunities for people that felt comfortable to connect if they wanted to connect.
Exactly.
And so leaving that option is it's going to be interesting to see, because I think it's going to be that, like, going forward it'll be very much like, you like this but you don't, and then how do we make this customized to you and the way that you want to engage. And I think Formstack as a company, not only their internal thing, but even their product can play into some of those things, and survey and ask and be available. So it's cool. So speaking of Australia, when might you be heading to Australia?
Well, once it starts opening up again and we can do some events, hopefully in 2022 that becomes more of a possibility for us, right? I think everybody's itching to travel.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm very excited to do. And just to go back to your point from before, I was so happy to get to meet you in a coffee chat in person. And
very true.
I just remember how we were able to, sit down together. We had our chat, and then both of us were like, okay, we have this next meeting. Let's just stay here and continue talking to each other, and we'll just work. We both had our own meetings right next to each other afterwards. So yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Very cool. So with Australia, is there anything in particular you're looking forward to on your first visits, or tell me about that, because I love Australia, by the way.
I do too. The last time I was in Australia was actually 2018. I went to a bachata festival. If you don't know what bachata is, it's a Latin dance. It's kind of like salsa-ish, I guess I would say. And they have some of the most amazing dancers. They social dance, that type of thing. So I'm hoping that once that starts to open up again, I can really enjoy that as part of the culture in Sydney. And I'm hoping kind of after that, if I can stay for like a weekend or something, going to the Whitsunday Islands. That's something that's on my bucket list for sure.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So do you dance?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't done partner dancing in a while just because of COVID, but I grew up dancing. So.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well I'll have to learn. I'll have to learn in that case.
Yes.
So we also have an upcoming event. I wanted to ask you, what can we look forward to?
Yes, I'm so excited for us to do an event together. I think just bringing together folks, clients, Salesforce people from Formstack all together so that they can have an introduction. I'm so excited to be able to really create a footprint in the islands. Being here and being local, that makes a huge difference, I think. And as we meet customers where they want to be met in terms of in-person or even virtual, I think that event would be great to kind of foreshadow what's coming in 2022 and beyond.
Yes, I am looking so forward to that. So stay tuned, everyone, on that thing. That's really all I have for today. Thank you so much, Kat, for being here. I'm looking forward to some really awesome things, not only in the remainder of this year, but leading into 2022, like you said. And yeah, thanks. I'm glad to have a partner in Hawaii. This is awesome.
Me too. I can't wait to work more with you, Deena, and the team at Pacific Point, and I can't wait to meet all of you, hopefully in person sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.